Welcome to the 700 Club. It looks like the weather is taking precedence again. You know, in the Caribbean, there was the worst earthquake in history. Took place yesterday, the worst one they have ever recorded. South of Cuba. Does this have any impact on the oil production in America? It may very well. This was around the Cayman Islands. But that whole area down there, if it's seismically active, it could tear things all to pieces. We get a lot of oil out of the Caribbean. And look what happened with Katrina and some of these other storms that have come out of the Caribbean. It isn't just a peaceful body of water like we like, but it's something we need to watch, and we'll tell you more about it on this program. But first it was the wildfires, and now California has been hit by another natural disaster. Guess what? Deadly mudslides. Wendy?
Unbelievable, Pat. At least 15 people dead. Rescuers still searching for the missing. Heather Sells brings us the story.
Authorities in California are still looking for survivors. They're expanding their search today. They are hoping to find people in damaged homes and buildings that so far they haven't been able to reach.
Our people are out there trying to do the best work they can and perform as many rescues as they possibly can.
Rescuers are climbing on rooftops, using search dogs, and even taking to the air in hopes of finding those who can't get out. One of those rescued on Tuesday, a 14-year-old girl, trapped for hours. Some people are even going out on their own searching for loved ones.
It's my mom, and I'm fighting with all my heart to find her.
Authorities had braced for something like this after historic wildfires last fall stripped hills of vegetation. This week, with nothing to hold the soil in place, a hard-hitting rain unleashed deadly torrents of mud.
3 in the morning, early morning hours, all the debris just came down. It sounded like cars were being dragged. You know, we saw the boulders, the rocks. I tried to get out and couldn't.
I woke up my wife and we just did not know what to do because we were just surrounded by mud.
In Santa Barbara County, thousands called for rescue between 3 and 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. Daylight revealed scenes that the sheriff described as looking like a World War I battlefield. The fast-moving mud worked like wet concrete and destroyed everything in its path. In Burbank, a debris basin partially collapsed. On many properties, the mud now reaches up to the roof lines. At this home, a river of sludge blew out doors, windows, and the garage door. And at this one, only the chimney is left. The rest of the house swept away. Elsewhere, intersections overrun with floodwater. What hasn't helped, residents who ignored mandatory evacuation warnings in Santa Barbara County. Less than 15% of the people got out. About 24 people are still unaccounted for. Rescuers hope they can find them today. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Tragedy. You know, I mentioned at the beginning of the program about another natural disaster that was struck. It's a 7.6 magnitude earthquake in the Caribbean. Ephraim Graham has that.
Pat, the quake was one of the largest to strike in the Caribbean in recorded history. The London Daily Mail reports the tremor prompted a tsunami warning for nearby islands, including the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica. But the warning was later canceled after no tsunami developed. The video you're looking at is from Honduras, which was the closest to the quake. Honduras did start up its emergency system. The Daily Mail reports the quake was also felt in Mexico. One person said, quote, "It felt like a bulldozer was driving past." It didn't last long, but was very violent. Well, now that North Korea plans to send athletes to the Winter Olympics in Seoul, will that change how the United States deals with the regime? While it appears like a good first step, CBN's national security correspondent Eric Rosales found experts have some questions about the motives of dictator Kim Jong-un.
For the first time in 8 years, North Korea has agreed to send its athletes to the Olympics. For the upcoming Winter Games, a figure skating pair and possibly more will be sent to represent the country. During a meeting between both sides, South Korean leaders talked of entering the Olympics opening ceremony side by side with the North. While the North Koreans call it a New Year's gift, the South sees it as reassurance the Games will not be disrupted.
시작이 반이다 하는 그런 얘기가 있습니다.
During the meeting, the South tried to bring up denuclearization, but received no response from their northern counterparts. Some see the North's Olympic participation as nothing more than a ploy.
We have to remember, on November 28th, they tested their latest ICBM, or long-range missile. Well, from what we've been able to gather, Kim hasn't been able to completely finish off that missile. He needs heat shield technology, essentially ability to have a warhead that can go through the atmosphere and hit something like a city. He's probably going to need a few more months to finish that off.
Harry Kazianis of the Center for National Interest says this latest move by the North has caused some division in the Trump administration. It's been reported Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Defense Secretary James Mattis want a peaceful solution, while National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster is pushing for a bloody nose attack.
The North Korean economy is the size of Vermont. It is a tiny little economy that we can essentially put a Python strategy on. We can strangulate them. As long as other countries like China and others are willing to help us, we can do that.
Security experts say North Korea could use the games to gather intelligence by placing double agents into crowded events. In a joint statement, North and South Korea has also agreed to hold talks to relieve military tensions, pledging to resolve national problems on their own. The Trump administration welcomes these talks.
The next steps would be denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is our #1 priority, and certainly what we would like to see. We are in very close contacts with our South Korean allies about these conversations.
And don't expect our defenses to back down.
We're always ready to act if we need be.
Secretary Mattis told CBN News the U.S.-South Korean military exercises will resume following the Winter and Paralympic Games, which will end March 18th. Eric Rosales, CBN News, Washington.
If you'd like to eat less sugar, try getting more sleep. A study from the United Kingdom found people who got more sleep cut back on the amount of sugar they ate. Live Science points out getting too little sleep has been linked to several bad health conditions, including obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. And too much sugar has been tied to overweight and other diseases as well. Pat, another reminder to not only get enough sleep, but of course to eat right as well.
Well, we've been talking about sugar forever, but the same thing, there are two things. One's called leptin, the other's called ghrelin. And the leptin controls your eating. You don't feel as hungry. The ghrelin stimulates the desire to eat, especially sweets. So if you don't get enough sleep, you have an increase of ghrelin, which makes you hungry because you don't get enough sleep. It's just the way it is, and so you want to eat more. So it's the reaction. It's the way that God made our bodies.
Caffeine and sugar, it's what makes the world go around. Yeah. Nothing would get accomplished.
Well, the sugar is killing us. That's one of the big problems we're dealing with right now is the excess of sugar. We had a guest on yesterday talking about diabetes, we're talking about Alzheimer's, we're talking about heart disease. All kinds of maladies are caused by inflammation, and the doctors more and more and more are talking about inflammation. Inflammation. What causes inflammation? Inflammation is caused by too much high processed carbs, sugar, white flour, and all that stuff. And that's what we just gorge ourselves on, so it makes us fat and sick. Okay.
But when you're snowed in for a couple of days, it's hard not to have the chocolate chip cookies.
I'm not hungry. I don't care if I'm snowed in or not. It doesn't make any difference to me, honestly. I just don't have an appetite.
I wish I had what you have.
I guess my ghrelin is down. I'm not getting a lot of sleep either, but that's a different matter. All right, Ephraim, what do you got?
Well, Pat, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration's decision to end a program protecting young immigrants from being deported. The U.S. District Judge granted a request by California and others to prevent President Trump from ending the DACA program, which stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. The judge's ruling puts a hold on the Trump decision while their lawsuit plays out in court. The U.S. Department of Justice says the judge's ruling protecting the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program does not change the fact that the program is illegal. The judge ordering the government to accept renewal applications from current DACA members. Justice Department spokesperson Devin O'Malley said the program was an unlawful circumvention of Congress by the Obama administration. The battle continues to be fought in both the courts and in Congress. O'Malley says the federal government is aiming to enforce the rule of law and wind down the program. The judge's decision came after President Trump negotiated with Republicans and Democrats in the White House yesterday in a meeting about how to deal with young immigrants. Pat, what do you think of this judge's ruling?
Well, I'm sick of little judges, district court judges, making these rulings that affect the whole United States. They just don't have jurisdiction over this, and I think it's time for Congress very quickly to set the jurisdiction of a district court judge to where the district extends and no more. The idea that a little district court judge in San Francisco could make a ruling that affects the entire United States of America and our foreign policy is just absurd. And we're letting that happen. These are unelected judges. They didn't get elected, and they shouldn't be allowed to have this kind of jurisdiction. As a matter of fact, I don't think they have it, but they're taking it anyhow, and it's time we do something about it. But this DACA thing was expiring of its own weight. Trump is not trying to hurt these people. He's trying to help them. And he just said, look, Congress, if you want this program to continue, if you want to help these young dreamers, then pass something. That's what he said. He said, look, Congress has got to do it, but the program has expired. He's absolutely right, and this district court judge is absolutely wrong.